are live.
I'm recording.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American
Why
Green
relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Grease Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Colin.
Oh, we forgot to change our shirt so people wouldn't know we were recording. Oh no, the secret's revealed.
Wait, there we go.
Change, yeah. They won't get through that. There we go. So good to see everyone again this week, or not see them. Whatever's going on. So entertainment news. You hear about Bob Odenkirk?
Oh yeah, he had a heart episode.
Now they're saying heart attack now.
Oh, okay.
They say something on his, because I follow him on Twitter, and it's like they managed to clear the blockage like chemically, like they didn't have to do surgery.
Yeah.
But they actually had a full-on heart attack. 58 years old, so. And that's a guy I don't know outside of the Breaking Bad universe, but I like him because he seems like he's really passionate about what he's doing, which is good to see in someone, because most people are like, yeah, just write the check. You know, he's actually like doing that character and doing it well.
And he did that, he was in an action movie this year, so that was
I watched
cool.
that one. That was an interesting movie. It was almost like kind of reminded me vaguely of John Wick. Like there's this secret universe and killers and people.
I basically saw Jane Wick.
Okay.
Because Netflix came out with Gunpowder Milkshake.
Never heard of it.
It came out this recent. It's basically like John Wick, but with women assassins.
Oh, okay.
It seems like it's based on a comic book, but it is not.
Oh.
but it looks like it is. It's okay. There's a lot of like clever fight scenes and stuff like that, but like there's a part where she just like her arms are paralyzed and she has a kid like duct tape a gun and a knife to her hands and she's just like flinging them from the shoulder, but because she's like a badass, she can do like kicks and stuff like that, but just to stab but then like she'll stab a person, but then like it's stuck in their throat and it's just like figure out how to get it out of their neck and stuff like that.
Just twist her torso to pull the knife out.
Yeah, or the part where she like, because she can use her legs but her arms are paralyzed and she has to have they do a driving scene. So like, while she's operating the pedals, the kid is driving the car. So there's some cool stuff in there. But
does the title ever come into play?
You
want to make a gunpowder out of milkshake?
No, she just has milkshakes on several occages, and then. Oh, okay. So I guess it just seemed like
she's not going to be able to do those leg kicks.
But who it is? It's she was in Doctor Who, and she's in the Marvel series, and so she's the main one. Then you got Lena Headey as her mother, and then they have this weird there's this weird like trio of assassin ladies who like they basically have like the gear, but it's all built around a library, and so like there's just all these books with different guns in it. And there's this fight scene where it's kind of fun, but it makes no sense because basically it's like what's that one thing you said, like the easiest reload is a fresh gun.
Yeah. Fastest reload is a loaded gun. Yep.
Yeah, so basically it's like that. It's like magazines don't exist in this universe. You just got to get a new gun.
Go straight for the gun.
So I vaguely recommend it. So, but I just realized I hadn't like opened up Netflix for like 2 months. It's like, oh, I should see what they have on there, and that was like the first thing. So I also see that Manifest is like one of their top shows, and they just canceled that show. And I was like, that's funny.
Really?
Yeah. It's like I think it's an NBC show, and they just released like the 3 seasons on Netflix, and it's like one of their top shows, and then NBC is like, and we're canceling Manifest. So.
Hey, is it successful? Are we making money? Let's cancel it.
Well, I guess they don't make money from Netflix, so.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they do. I'm not sure how that stuff. I'm not sure how that stuff's worked out, because it used to be like I hear like some contracts are pay by play, and then some of them are just like straight up deals. But then there's like weird stuff like if you watch something but you didn't watch the credits, then Netflix doesn't have to give you 5 cents or whatever. It's like, that sounds like garbage.
Yeah.
But
That's
I'm not
entertainment contract.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how that stuff is nowadays. But
Let's see on YouTube. Forgotten Weapons had a gun I've heard a lot about over the years that they're shooting. It's the French Manurin MR73.
Oh yeah,
Magnum. That's like a Korth. It was developed specifically for the French anti-terrorist group, the GI. What was it called?
GIGN.
Yeah, and it's
Gaijin. No.
the 357 revolver with all these. There's someone that, because they're importing. Beretta bought the company that makes them,
Yes.
and they're importing them into the U.S. again. And I'll only see these on YouTube, and I'll never buy one because they're like
$3,000. They're $3,000.
Yeah, and I'm not a $3,000 worth of gun shooting guy.
And it's actually above that. Like, I guess its listing price is like $3,300. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just a real high-tech, super durable, very accurate gun that can shoot a 9mm, a 38 Special, or a 357 Magnum, because those are all very close. And so the gun's made in a way that it can do all of those. And the 9mm, you don't need, the way they design the extractor for the cylinder, you don't even need like clips or anything. It'll actually extract those shells. So you don't have to put a special like moon clip in it or anything, which is cool.
Yeah,
I've always liked. It's like, it's a very simple looking gun. It's incredibly robust and well made, but it's also like ridiculously expensive. So.
Yeah. And
justifiably so.
And it's like the thing that I guess like one of the magic about it is like its double action pull is like better than that single action pull, which is wild.
Yeah.
You mean this is better in double action?
It is it is an amazing. I've heard about those for years, but I've never like, oh, where do you get one? And they don't make them in France. They don't import them. Well, now Beretta, which is an American-owned Italian gun maker, they bought the company that makes those for the French. But that company said, we're not compromising our quality on these. So if you want one, you got to go on a waiting list and come up with about $4,000, which I'm never going to do. It was cool to see someone actually shoot one, though, that's like, not a professional. It's like, what are these guns like in the hands of normal shooters? And it's pretty accurate.
Oh, yeah. I saw a video where they're shooting at 100 yards and 200-yard targets. It's like, that's fucking crazy.
With a pistol. Yeah.
A pistol is really something that's meant for like the furthest yards. 10, 20 yards maybe. 100, 200, that's rifle territory.
And they're not firing from a bag, they're standing.
Yes.
Not in a prone position or anything. This is how accurate how well made this gun is.
Yeah.
And like I said, it looks cool because it's so basic. If you pulled that out and said, this is a $3,000 gun, people would be like, no, it isn't. It's like, oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah, because like from just a quick glance, it's like, well, that just looks like a Smith & Wesson with like kind of a blacker finish, but no, it's not.
Nope, it's totally different. There's a guy took the entire trigger mechanism apart. He was a gunsmith. He got one from Beretta. He said, because all these guys said, we don't get to keep these. So we're not doing an ad for Beretta here. They just sent us one because we have popular YouTube channels. But yeah, this guy took it apart to its bare bones, and he's like, this is amazing engineering. Like the thought that went into this is, someone's like, how do you make the perfect modern revolver, and they did it.
Well, I also hear like what makes it most expensive is like each pistol or revolver has like 12 hours of hand fitting
Yeah, oh yeah.
by like master gunsmiths. So
And it has 100,000 round, pretty much lifetime guarantee. Like that
yeah.
firing pin won't break, it won't chuck a spring or anything. I mean, anything could happen, but honestly, if you take care of it and just shoot it, it's 100,000 round life, which is
Well, yeah, it was
about
because
10
the way it was
times life.
the way it was commissioned is like this needs to be able to do like 250 rounds of 357 Magnum every day for training.
Yep. The French Special Forces. Yep.
Yeah, and presumably there's a mythical one that has like 1 million rounds through it and never a major breakage. So
Like to see that.
yeah.
Just like to see that taken apart. Like how does that hold up?
Oh yeah, and it just looks like the same day he bought it. Like that's the finish on it is so exact.
Well, I like how it has the oversized kind of weird rubber grip that a lot of people think, oh, this looks cheap, but you realize, oh, there's something behind that because it forces your hands up, which makes it more accurate.
Yeah.
Because gripping it high, more in line with the barrel than your typical revolver, where you're kind of like, here's the barrel, or here's the cylinder, here's the barrel, like you're grabbing it down here. Whereas with this gun, you're kind of high. You're almost right behind the cylinder and barrel.
Yeah.
And there's a reason behind that. There's a technique that goes along with it, too. But,
High bore axis.
yeah.
Because the more in line the more the barrel is above your hand, the more the barrel is going to flip when you shoot it. So,
Right.
but that special rubber grit also absorbs the free 357 Magnum, so which is can be rough on your hands, but this thing it makes it pretty easy. Or at least that's what they say. So you've shot 357 Magnums.
Yeah, I mean, they can be. I mean, it depends on what you're shooting. Like if you're shooting like, personal protection, full plus P loads, yeah, that's going to be brutal. But the only reason you shoot those is because you're in fear of your life, so you're not going to notice it. If you just shoot with target ammunition, you'll be fine.
Yeah, because the other like special revolver that does that is the Chiappa Rhino.
Yeah.
Where it's like the barrel is on the is fired from the bottom cylinder, so it is directly in line with your hand, which people say it is actually uncomfortable. It's more comfortable to shoot, but it's uncomfortable to feel. It's like this feels wrong, even though it's better for accuracy.
Well, because instead of going like this, it's going like this.
Yeah, so like it hurts more.
Eating your palm.
Yeah,
because there's no. Yeah, it's that weird. I think that's is that a Spanish company?
I think it's Italian.
I don't know.
Because I think Chiappa, because they make a 3-barreled shotgun as well, and I want to say it's an Italian company, but I can't remember.
Yeah, the tri-barreled shotgun. I saw that. Those are kind of cool. I actually saw one of those in a gun store, but they're expensive.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not paying this much for a gimmick gun. This 3-barreled shotgun's cool, but it's good luck finding accessories for it. Like nothing accommodates that. It's just a weird coach gun with an extra barrel. Like that's strange. So yeah, that was one of those dream guns. It's like, oh, that looks so cool, but I'll never. I'm talking about the French gun.
Yeah.
Nara, and it's like, yeah, I'll never have one of those, but I'm glad that somebody out there has one.
Somebody has it. Yeah, it's it's like a Lamborghini. It's like that's cool. I'm glad somebody can enjoy that.
Yeah. I can watch it on YouTube, and
yeah,
because even if I was willing to spend the money for one, couldn't find bullets to shoot through it. Because even Ian on Forgotten Weapons, like, this is the last of my 357 rounds. It's like, yeah, this guy this is his whole living, shooting guns. But then the guys that it's the guy from Kentucky Ballistics was shooting like a minigun at a car today, and it's like thousands of rounds, like those Dillons or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, who's shooting that? Was that like $20,000 worth of bullets that just fired through that thing? And then of course, why not shoot a Ma Deuce right next to it? Sometimes I'm amazed at like what's in people's hands. It's like, who's got this shit laying around? Now sometimes it's companies that are just like trying to get their name out there through these shows, but sometimes it's just a dude.
Yeah,
it's like, Demolition Ranch has a Ma Deuce. It's like
yeah,
they
he just
do?
bought one. Yeah. He
Like,
now has an automatic 50 caliber machine gun.
I mean, a World War II era one still, but it's like, damn, I didn't even
Yeah,
know
but
that. Conceivable that you could own that.
yeah, but it's like, hey, you know that Barrett 50 he was always firing? Imagine if it was a machine gun, and that's what he has. And also, how much does that fucking cost?
Yeah. We're gonna shoot off some 50 cal today. Oh, really? How many? About 1,000. Like, oh, okay. So, it's assuming $2 a piece, which is way more than that. But assuming you buy in bulk, that's $2,000. It's like, okay, good luck. I'll watch it on YouTube and throw it a like, give it a thumbs up.
Yeah.
That's the closest I'm ever gonna come to that.
I also think he spent like 150 grand for that thing. So.
Oh yeah, it's
Which is probably a deal in some weird. It's like, you're actually making money buying it, and they had Goldberg on there. So, just so he's
it
selling
pays for
T-shirts.
itself.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
does? Okay. Well, if you
Also,
got a-
I also like Goldberg brought his rifle, and it was Tavor. It's like, okay, that's right, because he's like one of the most famous Jews in the world.
oh, he's Jewish.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should have put that together with his name. I just never thought of that. Okay. I always thought he was like some guy from Cleveland.
Yeah, sure. Just a
I don't
big
know
muscly dude.
I don't know much about Goldberg. It
It's
was
he's
funny
way-
watching him shoot that 50 cal because it
Yeah.
like seemed size appropriate for him.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it's like shooting this huge, and these guns had like wood on them and scroll work and kind of that industrial look.
Yeah.
It's like all these other guys are shooting a big gun. Goldberg, it's like, oh, he could probably carry that around. I don't know if he could anymore, but it seems like he's the size. But yeah, I that always amazes me. These guys had BARs once too. I don't know which channel that was on, but it was like the question was like, how rough is this gun to shoot? Because it only holds like 20 shots.
Yeah.
Fully automatic 30-06, and it's like they're not fun to shoot. There's not a lot of like, the modern compensating and design technology. That was just a way to spray deer killing rounds down people very quickly. It's like a wood stock with like a steel like strap on the back of it. Like put that against your shoulder to lean in. And those guns fire open breech, which means it's really old technology when they're doing that. And it's like, oh wow, that must be wickedly abusive. And then I heard they had 50 cal versions of those. Not many, but they tried them out. It's like, ooh, who's putting that up against their shoulder? But like we learned from Bonnie and Clyde, he chopped one down like a sawn-off shotgun. It's like, this is my bank robbing tool.
It's not about comfort. It's about scaring the police.
No, I don't think it has stock on it. I think it was like pistol grip. Like
Yeah,
hold up.
yeah.
It's like that guy must have been strong as an ox.
I mean, it was designed to be fired from the hip, but
Yeah, it's like I never think of like, yeah, let's shorten down a BAR, let's cut that stock off, but it's cool looking. Those are cool looking guns. They never made it much past World War II, did they? Didn't they kind of phase those out?
there was a, I think there was like a Swedish version that had a lot of like modifications to it that made it like more of a modern rifle, but that was like in World War II. I think it didn't make past that. So.
Yeah, they were pretty common in World War II. That was like the squad suppression gun. You didn't have what were those boxes with barrels on them called? The M30 machine gun.
Oh, 30-30?
No, the one that had the cloth belt.
Yeah, I think it's 30. The Browning 30-30 machine gun.
Yeah, it was like it was 30 caliber or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were kind of weird.
Yeah, I
mean,
think it's just called. Yeah, I think it's just called Browning machine guns.
Yeah, I mean they worked, but
I'm also like confusing myself because the Ma Deuce is also a Browning machine gun, but also Browning made a ton of things that worked. So
the AR is a Browning.
yeah, the Browning automatic rifle. Yep.
Because the Uzi copied a lot of things from the BAR
Yeah.
because of ease of manufacture and stuff. Like, I didn't realize, like, oh yeah, they copied the mechanism essentially just for 9mm. They shortened it way up, but it's like it's essentially this. One guy on this engineer gun channel was explaining like these are essentially the same things. It's like they don't look like the same things, but it's like one shoots 9mm, and then the other shoots 30-06 show. Quickly.
I wasn't coerced. I was watching. I haven't watched the Sit Up or Shut Up and Sit Down, which they do board game stuff. And then I watched one of theirs, and their new thing is like, this might be the game of the year. And then they had a Kickstarter. And I didn't Kickstarter, I just bought it, and they sent it to me even before it's out. But this is the new hotness. It's called Oath.
Oath? Okay.
A lot of, even aesthetically, it's just kind of cool. Like, there's like neat, kind of cute art to it. Like, it's very unique. It's well done for what it. Sometimes it looks like it's a bit childish or whatever. It's like, I could draw that, but no, it's aesthetically very pleasing for what it's doing. I don't really know how to describe the game because it has a lot of manuals to it.
That's a lot of instructions.
There's one really interesting thing. You can play this game by yourself, and the way to do that is that there's a main character called the Chancellor, and they're sort of like the king, and they run the kingdom, and like everybody else is trying to like fit in the Chancellor. And there is a character called the Clockwork Prince. And to play by yourself, this is like basically a series of what the character would do in a circumstance. And so basically you play by yourself, and then when you reach the circumstance, you just follow the outline to what the character would do.
Oh, it's just like an artificial decision tree of
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is very interesting. You can also use this because I don't know, the guy was saying like really this is meant for 3 players. So if you just have 2 people, you can additionally have a 3rd player with the Clockwork Prince if you want. These are reference sheets just for people playing the game because there seems to be a lot involved. Because it seems to be like almost like Risk, like you're moving pieces about a board. There's you roll dice for battle stuff. You have these giant character cards. You can play a bunch of different characters. So like here's the Chancellor. Somebody has to play the Chancellor, and then on the other side is the Clockwork Prince. So like, and then you have all these. You start out as an exile, but the Chancellor, but if the Chancellor wants to, and if you want to agree to it, you can become a citizen, and that like has all different kinds of like benefits to it if you're a citizen or not, and you can be banished again and be exiled again. There's a lot of different ways to win the game. It's like throughout you also have this very nice. This is the game board.
Cool. Is that like it's like a fiberboard rubberized back?
Yeah, it's like cloth. Okay. It's kind of cloth.
Okay.
And then there's like these different things, and you put different cards in here, and it kind of creates the world. And like you can like go about the world and find hidden treasures, because you'll get these cards where it's like, I think there's a secret around here, and then like you go looking for the secret, because there's different ways you can win the game. Like you can win the game like if you're the Chancellor, if you like uphold the morals of the citizenry or something like that or whatever, and that's one way to win the game. You can win the game by like carrying a secret to term. It's like, I know a secret, and then like you meet the goals, and then the secret is revealed, and then you win the game. And then there's like all this different stuff, and then you got this box here. It's called the World Box, and so depending on like what happens at the end of every game, it changes the World Box, and so every game you play next depends on the game you played before.
Huh.
So it changes the game every time you play it.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's I don't know exactly how it does it, but like when they kind of explain that idea, it's like, sure, that sounds cool. I've never seen that before in a board game. So
Right.
Yeah, you got like all these figures, and they kind of have the art on it, and it's pretty nicely done. A bunch of that stuff. Got a ton of cards here, which I haven't even opened up. Although also here's the other thing I get to present. Hugo's Amazing Tape.
What does that do?
So right now these are taped together. It is a vinyl tape that only sticks to itself. So you can like wrap it around a thing, and it doesn't like put residue on the thing.
It's not a bunch of sticky tape. It's okay. Oh, that's a good
That's-
idea.
So you can wrap things up. And I saw, yeah, because there's so much shit in here, and it doesn't. And like once you punch out all the punch boards and stuff like that, I was like, I don't know how to put this back in the box. So I looked up a YouTube video. It was like, how do you put this in the box? And I saw how the guy did it, and he had this tape, and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So I'm gonna get that. So.
Where do you get that tape at?
I just got it on Amazon. It's called Hugo's Amazing Tape. It might just be regular vinyl tape, but apparently they were on Shark Tank. So
Okay.
there's that too. So set this aside for now, but yeah, that seems cool. I don't know if I ever gonna play it, but it seemed really cool. It seemed quality, so I just went ahead and got it. So. I got here very quick because, like, technically it's not released, and I just bought it, and then they sent it to me. So,
That was mighty good up.
so it's supposed to be only like out for Kickstarter backers right now, but they just sent it to me. So,
It's amazing they can get stuff like that printed nowadays.
yeah, it's in China, so
Yeah. Yeah, they're always open for business in China. So, let's see what did I have on here? Let's talk about Formula One
all right.
because you had some things you wanted to say.
Well, there's not much going on right now. They had free practice 1 and 2 today for the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring. And once again, it's like Bottas, the master FP1 and 2. Unfortunately, that means nothing.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. Is like Bottas is so good when given the least amount of time, but then when it comes down to the final thing, it's like because it seems like he just figured something's out before everybody else does, and then when you get to qualifying, it's like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton just find extra stuff out of nowhere, but Bottas doesn't. He's just as good as the way he came when he started, but it was not good enough compared to them. So, Fernando Alonso turned 40 today.
Wow.
So that the second 40-year-old on the grid compared to all these like 18-year-olds. Actually, I don't think there's anybody 18 currently on the grid. I think Yuki Tsunoda is 21, so he's the youngest.
Oh, okay.
Although Max Verstappen was 17 when he started in F1, so yeah. Yeah, that was like the funny thing because I think he got on the podium for Toro Rosso when he was with them for a bit, and he wasn't allowed to drink, and so he couldn't drink the champagne on the podium.
Oh, yeah. Don't spray him with champagne. Like an alcoholic. Just finished a dangerous road race, but he can't have a drink.
There was another one. I think in the Monaco there was a guy. I think he won the race, and he's from Monaco, and he can't legally drive in Monaco because he's not old enough. But he can drive an F2 car around Monaco. Yeah, it's under controlled conditions, so whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big thing that happened this week is there's a meeting between Mercedes and Red Bull and the stewards, and they're going to hash out the incident between Verstappen and Hamilton, and then basically kind of like broke down, and the Red Bull was basically trying to get like Lewis Hamilton kicked out of the sport or something, and so nobody was having that, so that ended that real quick, and basically nobody's at fault. So, one of the there's just there's just been a bunch of rumors between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, and I just don't listen to them because it's all garbage.
Yeah, it's a lot of rumors.
Because there's been stuff where it's like somebody asks a question, it's like, did you talk to Lewis Hamilton since the incident? It's like, yeah, he called me, we talked. And then like, do you want to elaborate? It's like, no, that's personal. And then like somebody goes on and writes something that's like, Max Verstappen wasn't happy with the call he had with Lewis Hamilton. And it's like, well, I don't know where the fuck he's getting that from, but people just write shit, I guess.
Yeah, it's fun to make up stories. Why would you want to tell the truth?
Yeah, I mean, this could be their biggest rating they have yet if they build up this whole Lewis Hamilton's trying to kill Max Verstappen thing. Let's see if Max Verstappen tries to kill Lewis Hamilton. It's like, who stabs who in the back first?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Gotta love that stuff.
Yeah, it's just all garbage. Have you ever heard of Ziggo Sports?
No, I haven't. I'm gonna
So
say I haven't.
On the Reddit F1 page, they'll pull clips from like Ziggo Sports. It's basically ESPN but for the Netherlands.
Okay.
They always have like orange equipment, so like their microphone's orange and it says Ziggo Sports on it. And like they seem to broadcast in different languages, but like, when they talk to the drivers, it's in English, and occasionally they'll broadcast in a different language to suit their constituents or whatever, the people they're serving. But man, it is a wildly unprofessional organization. Like they'll just because apparently there's no standards for swearing, so you can swear on Ziggo Sports, and they also sometimes it seems like the people that are working there don't understand racism or sexism, and dude, that's not cool. It's like, so yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. Oh, because where's that out of again?
The Netherlands.
Yeah, I've heard that they're I've heard that some of those places are they just don't have any. There's no filtration of anything that's is this going to be seen as wrong? It's like, well, no, because we're speaking, from our hearts. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for the F1s. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of rumor stuff out there, but
yeah, it never comes to anything.
What is it? Michael Schumacher is getting, or Mick Schumacher, not Michael, his son, Mick Schumacher is getting a new seat for his car.
Okay.
Because apparently he is asymmetric. His body is asymmetrical in a weird way, so that he intentionally sits crooked in the car because it feels right to him. So I guess they're making him a crooked seat so he can feel right in the car. So he'll be getting that this time around.
How much does that cost?
Probably $10,000 or something.
Oh, okay.
That's, man. Remember I told you that guy they make 3 helmets for every race they put together?
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
Those helmets are $3,000 a piece.
Doesn't surprise me.
Because of the safety features and stuff. Jesus.
A lot of specialized materials.
Yeah.
Not used anywhere else.
But it's interesting because they also have serial numbers and stuff, because they have those helmets have expiration dates.
Yeah.
So I forget how long it is, but if it goes so long, you can't race with that helmet in a race because it's expired.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if the materials expire. I think it's more of the safety standards just keep improving. So,
well, no, motorcycle helmet. What did they say those were good for when I was buying them? They're good for 4 years, or unless you have an accident and don't get killed. If it hits the ground hard, if it's dropped, it's immediately no good. Because what happens is the materials, the impact resistant materials, they harden.
yeah.
And they become, at least that's for motorcycle helmets. I don't know about F1 helmets, but yeah, the materials harden up in the motorcycle helmets, and you got to replace them.
I think
Whatever that impact foam is exposed to air, it just starts to lose its whatever makes it elastic.
And I'm not sure if MotoGP was giving an RIP to the one guy that already died this year, or if they had a second guy die this year in their junior series. Yeah, there's a guy, I think he was 17 and died in a MotoGP race. I think it was one of their junior series.
Yeah.
I think he fell off the bike and then somebody hit him. That's a
motorcycle.
bummer. Yeah.
There's not a lot of protection there. Just going down hard.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for racing right now. Yeah, that qualifying's tomorrow, and then we have the race on Sunday. So
We'll talk about it next week for all you F1 fans that come to American Breed Factory for all your F1 racing.
come here for racing, guns, and board games.
Yep. And
Right.
movies.
Yeah, and I have wrestling news.
Oh, we haven't had this in a while. What's going on in the wild world of wrestling?
Oh man, they had a fucking crazy show on Wednesday.
Oh yeah. Which
So
group?
AEW.
Oh, okay.
So they've been having this. Chris Jericho's been having this. He's been trying to get it at MJF, but MJF set up this whole like stipulation he has to get through, and they're calling them the Labors of Jericho.
Okay.
So he has to go through 4 matches of stipulations that MJF picks. And the first match is he had to face Shawn Spears, but Shawn Spears gets a chair and Jericho can't use the chair. Only Shawn Spears can use the chair. So that match was all right. And then the second one, which was this show, is he had to fight Nick Gage. I don't know if you know who Nick Gage is. He was the wrestler that robbed a bank and went to jail, and he's a deathmatch wrestler. Yeah. And yeah, he showed up, and they had a fucking death match on national television. Like glass, light tubes, pizza cutters. They did that shit.
Pizza cutters, God.
Oh yeah, there was a fun thing where he like scraped a pizza cutter like across his head, and then they had a picture-in-picture ad, and the next ad was Domino's where they're like using a pizza cutter to cut the pizza. That was for tour. Apparently, Domino's was apparently mad about that, but like,
yeah, sure they were.
Yeah, they're only getting attention for it. So.
Yeah, we don't want attention to this thing we're trying to advertise. Of course not.
But yeah, I cannot fucking believe they did a death match on light tubes. That was the crazy thing. It's like there's no way they're gonna do light tubes. Like maybe they'll do thumbtacks. Like no, they did fucking light tubes. Like they're fucking crazy.
Up in the ante with with valuable people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, one of their biggest stars.
Get that in the optic nerve, you know.
But yeah, there is no way they can do this on a weekly basis. So hopefully this is either a one time or because I can see them saving that stuff for like a pay-per-view because they've done stuff like that before with like a bunch of glass and barbed wire shit in pay-per-view matches. But like this was on television, dude. Like
it's like a weekly thing.
And when that was if I listened to Dave Meltzer talk about like the thing that Dave Meltzer was worried about. It's like, Allstate is your primary sponsor. Like you can't put a death match on television and expect your sponsor to stay around because apparently that's a big thing with wrestling and sponsors is like because people have very low standards for wrestling. Like the advertising they get is usually pretty low, and even though they have they'll be like the number one show on television, like they can't demand like as much money for ads as other television shows.
They're not getting like Super Bowl money.
Yeah. Even though it's like yeah, this show was the number one show on cable, and they've been doing that for the last 3 weeks. Like all the WWE shows are like the number one shows on cable, but people, the way people see wrestling, it's still very low rent, so they don't get, like they're getting like they're beating the hell out of F1, but like F1 gets sponsored by Rolex and shit. So
yeah, it's kind of like content driven there. Like you're gonna see like thoroughbred race cars, cool European locales, and then this guy's gonna eat glass on live TV. Like, you're a totally different audience there.
Yeah. But they did put it on at the end of the show, so if anyone thinks like, oh, this is for children, it's like, no. And, for a death match, there could have been way more blood, but there really wasn't that much blood. There was still blood, but there wasn't that much blood.
Yeah, they didn't go completely over the top.
No. I've seen way, like, for a death match, this was pretty pretty tame for the death matches I've seen, where people are basically just caked in blood, and it's like they're wearing white, and by the end of it, it's all red. It's like, this wasn't that.
I like the ones where the guys it's like in the white wrestling outfits. It's like, oh, you know, this is going, especially if it's in like a VFW hall in Nebraska. It's like, yeah, this is gonna be ugly.
But then also on the show, they made an announcement that on August 20th, and this is a recent announcement, that they're gonna have they have a new show coming out on August 13th. It's a 1-hour wrestling show on Friday nights called AEW Rampage.
Okay.
And so for the week after their premiere, they're having a special episode on August 20th called AEW Rampage First Dance, and it's going to be held at the United Center in Chicago. The United Center is where the Bulls play.
Okay.
This is a huge fucking stadium.
Yeah, you could probably get like 70,000 people in there.
I think it's 40,000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
And it might be different for how wrestling is set up, because the way a wrestling stage is set up, like a quarter of the stadium is used for the production, and so you only have like that horseshoe left for the audience.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
And one of the promos, Darby Allin was talking about, like, in AEW, this is the place for the best wrestlers. So if you want to be the best wrestler, you need to wrestle here, even if you're the best in the world. And that is the catchphrase, or best in the world is one of the catchphrases for CM Punk, who is the white whale of wrestling right now.
Okay.
Because he has been out of wrestling for like 7 years.
Didn't he try MMA?
Yeah, he tried to do MMA, but he wasn't very good.
Yeah. There's no one likes to get kicked in the head.
And he's although the last loss he had, it was that they determined it a no contest because I guess his opponent was popped for weed recently, so they declared like all that guy's stuff like a no contest. So, so that's weird. But anyway, it's like people fucking love CM Punk. There have been CM Punk chants in WWE for 7 years after he left.
That's longevity when you're not even actively doing it.
Yeah,
And people are still like into it.
and they're still not saying that he's and people are always suspecting like, oh, CM Punk's going to join AEW. Of course they will, but like CM Punk's been very elusive about that. Also, so when he left WWE, he did a podcast with his friend Colt Cabana, where he talked about like the incompetence of their doctors, and so of course WWE sued them for libel.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to get sued.
And so they went through the lawsuit. They won the lawsuit, but then I guess there was a verbal deal between Colt Cabana and CM Punk that CM Punk would pay the legal fees. And then Colt Cabana apparently had to sue CM Punk for legal fees. So that ended their friendship. So Colt Cabana is in AEW. But like you don't, and so they're not saying CM Punk showing up, but they're basically saying CM Punk showing up. You don't get a fucking 30,000 seat stadium if CM Punk is not showing up. If CM Punk doesn't show up at that show, they'll lose all credibility.
Yeah, that's yeah. You're gonna
but they still want that surprise, so they're not just gonna tell you that CM Punk's showing up. So, but they're leading you as much as they can. Like, we're going to Chicago, we're going to the biggest stadium. Somebody said best in the world. CM Punk's showing up, so everybody's got to be there. And apparently, they already sold 12,000 tickets. So,
wow.
Yeah, AEW is very hot right now, and I don't know. Some people say like CM Punk isn't really a needle mover, but he consolidates a base pretty well. And the last time he was on television, there was about 3 to 4 more million people watching wrestling than there are now. So if he can bring those people back, then AEW is going to shoot through the fucking roof.
It's gonna be him and Hulk Hogan in a death match.
But we'll see if they get the rights to Cult of Personality, because that's his entrance music, or at least it wasn't WWE.
Oh, that one group.
Look in my eyes. That's
Yeah, they
me.
had the guitar hook.
Yep.
Yep. I called Living.
Yeah, Living Color. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also Daniel Bryan, who left WWE earlier, or at least his contract expired, and he hasn't been doing. There's been no word about that for like, I don't know, like 3 months.
Yeah.
And so he is also rumored to have signed with AEW. And like, you don't really know who Daniel Bryan is, but he's in wrestling circles. He is he's a very good wrestler. He's a good promo and all that stuff. He's a small guy, so that's kind of why Vince McMahon doesn't like him. He had probably one of the most improbable and amazing WrestleMania runs. Like, I think it was WrestleMania 33, because like, Vince McMahon doesn't like Daniel Bryan. He's a vegan and he's small. It's like, I could take that guy. He's not going to be a spearhead for this company. And basically the crowd liked Daniel Bryan so much that they just willed his whole championship run into existence. Like, they would not let WWE not make him champion. But the way they built the story is basically they just put all the obstacles in Daniel Bryan's way, and he got through all of them, and it was very exciting. It was like one of the last good things that WWE did. And they didn't want to do it. It was just pure accident. Like, the crowd told them what to do, and they didn't even want to do it. It just worked out.
That's terrible when it's like, yeah, we're going to fall into this. We're not going to generate this, even though this is our job. It's like, yeah, we're just going to fall into this.
And John Cena's back in wrestling. He'll be wrestling Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. So that's gonna.
Yeah. What was a weird thing about him that I heard? Oh, I didn't know he spoke Chinese.
Oh yeah. Because WWE is expanding into the Chinese market, so he bothered to learn Mandarin and go out there and speak it. And then apparently on something he was talking about Taiwan, and he got for trouble for acknowledging Taiwan. So.
Well, I didn't know about that. I saw he was doing ads for like their hot sauce over there,
Yeah.
but in Mandarin. I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yep.
Is he like reading lines? And it's like, no, he
No,
just
he can
picked it up
speak
on-
fluent Mandarin, so yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
He could be the biggest star in the world. Well,
Yeah.
but he acknowledged that Taiwan exists. That's weird how so many people are afraid of that. Have you ever seen that video where they were talking to the guy from the the international disease thing?
No.
Yeah, what's that thing called? World Health Organization. He was an American.
Yeah.
He was being interviewed by a Korean news service, I think, South Korean, of course, and they asked him like, well, because they were talking about how does mainland China's response to COVID compare to like what Taiwan is doing or whatever. He like stopped the call. he kind of fumbled around a little bit, and then he can tell he just hit like end call on the Skype, and then called back. Like, it's like, oh yeah, these people are so afraid of China now. They don't, you can't acknowledge that Taiwan exists, which is really weird. Yeah, because we don't officially acknowledge their existence. Like we don't have like a Taiwanese embassy, or
Yeah.
we never talk about Taiwan. That was something that like Nixon started. It's like, yeah, I don't talk about Taiwan, but we have like massive military assets there and stuff. So it's like a weird relationship. So yeah, it's funny to see people like Taiwan. No, I've never heard of them. Like, oh, okay. Okay, how about the Republic of China? How does that work? That's the people that ran China before the communists came along.
I have all these things that are made in Taiwan, but apparently it doesn't exist.
Invisible.
Yeah, it's kind of like North Korea in a way, where it's like this buffer. Where It's
Yeah.
like neither of them want to claim ownership, but both of them want to exploit them. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing. And then you look into it like, why is that? Because I knew like roughly the history, but it's like, why is it still a thing? And it's like, oh, because that's just something that China thinks this is going to fall into their lap. Like they get that back, they get Hong Kong, they get all these places back. It's like, no, this is ours, and we're going to take it. And as long as you're addicted to cheap slave labor, you're going to let us do it. Because as long as the people that pay you money to run America or whatever, or want to make their phones and everything else over here, you're gonna go along with us murdering a bunch of people because it's money first. I mean, I don't know if the Chinese Communist Party would murder a bunch of people. They don't have a record of that. You can't say.
they only on one day murdered all of our American assets one time.
When did they do that?
You don't remember that? Oh, that was like 3 years ago or something. It was one day, like not they didn't murder Americans, but like CIA contacts that they have in China.
Oh yeah, because they got access to all their operatives in China, got all killed. Yeah, because somebody sold them intelligence.
Yeah,
we don't know who. It's a mystery. Anyway, speaking of China, we watched a movie this week.
A whole town.
It's a 1974 classic, Chinatown.
Which I have never seen before, but basically
Jack-
cultural osmosis. I know about it.
Yeah.
It was very fun watching this because I've never seen it before, and it's like, and now it's just like, oh, like all these like spoof movies I've seen. It's like, this is what that's spoofing, like
Yep.
Simpsons and Fatal Attraction and various Mel Brooks, and pretty much the entire Who Framed Roger Rabbit is pretty much taking everything from this movie.
Yep. This is considered one of like the 10 best films ever made by some people.
Unfortunately, it was made in the same year as The Godfather Part 2, so that's why it did not win the Oscar for Best Picture.
Only nominated for like 12. But
Yeah. I think it only won for Best Screenplay, but
yeah, well, Roman Polanski kind of dirtied the legacy of this with his him being what'd they say, a sex pest,
yeah,
doing gross sex stuff with underage girls.
Yeah, drugging an underage girl and molesting her.
Sodomized her. That's how the charge is written.
Oh,
so yeah, we're not going to talk a lot about him.
yeah,
He's dead.
No, he died?
Yeah, I thought he died.
No, I believe he's still alive.
Oh, I thought he was dead. Well, he's 87, so.
Okay. Because he's still making movies in France. But.
Oh, yeah, I remember a couple years ago, the Hollywood people are like, we should let bygones be bygones. And then, of course, the culture shifted, and it's like, oh, no, we can't do that. Not if we're going to pin people up for some comment they made on Twitter 15 years ago or whatever. It's like, we can't, let Polanski back, and you shouldn't, because he actually did something. He didn't say something. Or
I mean, your wife and unborn child died horribly. Doesn't give you permission to do everything, but
yeah. Well, there was a lot of things that was what Polanski got caught for. There was apparently a lot of shit was going on.
Yeah. If you imagine what he didn't get caught for, so
yeah. Well, I can tell you, I've got the charges right here. I'm not going to do a hit job on Roman Polanski. Yeah. I like this movie, so
yeah.
And I like and I'd seen this years ago, and I watched it again, and it's a good paranoid film, and I like movies like that. It's kind of we have our protagonist, J.J. Gittes, the detective played by Jack Nicholson, and we have
he's Private Eye, right?
Yeah, Private Eye.
Well, that's because that's specific, because it's like he's investigating things, but he has no moral obligation to turn anybody in or or do anything about it. He just gathers the information.
we got Faye Dunaway as Evelyn Cross, which I knew who she was, but I'd never really like seen a lot of movies with her in it where I paid attention.
Yeah.
And I found out, I was like, oh yeah, she is as good an actress as they say.
I mean, we saw her in Bonnie and Clyde, so.
Yeah. But she really stood out in. I mean, everyone in this was good. Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, and John Huston were all great in this.
Yeah.
John Huston, you recognize his voice immediately.
And you even got Roman Polanski playing a part.
Yeah, he's the knife wielding guy. You know why he did that?
Why?
Because he was the one who knew how to make the knife. Because it was like a stunt knife. But it was made in a certain way where the blade would I forget how they explained it because there was no visual. I wish there was a visual. But anyway, if you didn't do it just right, if you didn't turn your wrist just right, it would have really cut Jack Nicholson's nose like that.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to disfigure Jack Nicholson. So that's why Roman Polanski, because he was like, I'm the only one. I don't want anyone else to do this because I don't. If this goes wrong, it's I don't want to. It's going to be my fault, essentially. So, yeah. So that's why he showed up in it briefly.
But yeah, this is about the water crisis in the 30s, or
late 30s, mid 30s.
Um,
which was a real thing.
And kind of continues today.
Well, it's interesting in this movie when I was watching it, it was like, oh, see, back in the 30s when they were building up Los Angeles, they were trying to screw all the ranchers and farmers around the area. They were trying to steal all their water to make Los Angeles bloom in the desert. And it's like, oh, now they're just trying to do that to the whole country. Achieve the same. They want, instead of just screwing a bunch of farmers and orange farmers and ranchers, they're trying to pass laws where we got to pay all kinds of taxes so they can continue to live that way. It's like, oh, this is crazy. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. If anyone's interested, and this was an if, because I remember I read this book in high school. There is an actual book, because all the stuff in this is fictional, but based on real things, just not real people.
Yeah.
There's a book that came out in 1993 called Cadillac Desert, and it talks about how, like John Mulholland and people like that just envisioned this city on the edge of the desert called Los Angeles, and they knew they didn't have any. There's not enough water there to support a big metropolitan area, but these guys made it happen with some of the most complex schemes and scams and just water. The most elaborate water delivery systems in the world are in California because it was the only way they could make it happen. And they got the government involved with it. The Corps of Engineers built it all built at taxpayer expense, not local taxpayers, national taxpayers. And this was in the the 20s.
Because isn't the water piped out of the Rio Grande to LA?
Colorado River.
Colorado, okay.
Yeah. So this was an interesting book. There is also a PBS series called Cadillac Desert that's basically an updated version of the same thing.
Huh.
So you can, if anyone's interested and wants to understand why this is important in the LA basin and places like that, it's oh yeah, this is a real thing that goes on. And like I said, now they've tried to super expand it to everyone in the country has got to pay to maintain that. So through different schemes and through different means and through whatever fear they can induce on the news. But yeah, it's not, California's burning because of, some abstract thing, not the fact that it's oh, there's a bunch of scrub pine in the desert and it gets really hot there in the summer and everything burns to the ground. Well, how are we going to fix that? Well, don't live there. Don't live in a desert full of pine trees, which I don't know if you've ever had a live Christmas tree and had to dispose of it by burning it. Once it goes dry, those things go hot. I mean, super hot. I burned one in my backyard once. I thought I was going to melt the siding off the house. Damn, this thing's hot. It wasn't even that big. So, yeah. So if anyone's wondering about that, it's I don't think you can pay enough taxes to change that when you got 20 million people living at the edge of a desert and a saltwater ocean. But you can't do anything with that water except turn everything into a desert again.
Well, I mean, you can desalinate it, but that's wildly expensive in energy cost. And
Not
pretty
only
much,
that, it produces shit so toxic as a side effect, it's almost as bad as radioactive shit to get rid of.
and the only people that can really do anything like that are like small oil countries.
Oil states can do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, Saudi Arabians do it pretty regularly. I like it when they dig wells in Saudi Arabia, and they're like, you got to dig down miles, and when the water comes out the head, it's boiling because it's so far in the ground, and they have to have just giant cooling pools around it. And yeah, but you know, if you wanna make the desert bloom, you need a lot of water, and the water you need is fresh water, not brackish seawater. So yeah. But anyway, back to Chinatown.
I love the part where so he's so supposedly his wife, this guy's wife, who's like an engineer for water and power, and he gets hired to follow him around, and he's just like going to different like places where the water comes out, and he's just sitting there like because he's analyzing something I can't really remember.
Yeah.
And I love the bit where he takes. He's not going to hang around all night to see when this guy leaves, so he takes 2 watches. He starts them both at the same time, and he puts one underneath his tire so that the clock will break at the time he left, and so he can know it's like when he left. I was like, that's really cool.
That is cool, and I don't know why I didn't use a GPS tracker, but no, that was a cool. Like, oh, this is a simple way to determine when someone left. And this is implied to be like an infidelity thing.
Yeah.
Like he's like Geddes is supposed to follow this guy because he's cheating on his wife, and then you find out it's like, oh, it's a lot worse than that. And then Faye Dunaway shows up at his office after this gets put in the paper, and he's taking pictures of this guy. And let me talk about. I like the cinematography of him following Hollis Mulray around.
Yeah.
Because it's like that's when the paranoia starts. Like you're looking at people through lenses.
Yeah.
And you're spying on people, and you're taking notes, and it's like, is this guy screwing around on his wife? And then he.
Well, I also like the bit where the guy is like, "Is somebody following me?" And then every time he looks back, like nobody's there. But then you cut to Jake, and he's just kind of like, just barely out of the sight line of the guy.
Yeah, he's a very good detective.
Yeah.
As far as knowing how to follow people and gather information, not so good at judging people's character. Which, interestingly, like he's a guy who wants fame and seems kind of morally wayward, but he has this thing about I'm not going to overcharge you. Like he seems to be really good with everyone about, hey, I'm not going to charge you, an arm and a leg, or take your time to pay me off or whatever. I know that pays off later in the movie. But it always seems to be a theme with him. Like, yeah, I'm kind of an amoral person in some ways, but I'll never screw you out of money.
Well, also like his cell job. Whenever somebody comes in, it's like, I need you to like spy on my husband, and he like basically his cell job is to like, you don't want me to do that, and then it just makes people want him to do it even more. And he can
Yeah, because he has this whole thing: just go home, have dinner. It's gonna happen. No one is not gonna make it better. Which is all that does is like entice people. It's like, I want to know. But in this movie, like with the Hollis Mulray character he's following, then his real wife shows up, played by Faye Dunaway, and it's like, I didn't pay you to follow my husband, and all this shit you put in the paper, I'm going to sue your ass off for it because I don't know what you think is going on. So it all becomes like this double cross of lies and intrigue, and I'm not going to explain the whole movie, but it's kind of interesting. Like the J.J. Gittes character has some depth. He's ego driven, but he's smart, but he's also out of his league.
Yeah,
because there's always a deeper game going on. He can never quite get ahead of things.
He starts the conspiracy kind of starts happening when he sees like the power, and it's like, why are people doing this? Like, why are like lands being flooded, and why are other ones being droughted? And then like all the people at this retirement facility suddenly have all this land, and like, do they actually have the land, or is this some like weird holding company thing? And like he's like, that's like, he knows he's out of his depth at that point, because now this is a political game that he he can't fathom. It's like, well, this is beyond me. I'm just looking for people who cheat on each other.
Yeah.
Now this is a government conspiracy perpetrated by very wealthy people who are dangerous.
And completely immoral.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at the things I love about this movie. It's got, you know, it's got the cheating spouses, paranoia, facial mutilation. There's a lot of people with not just Geddes. There's a lot of people with like people with eyes missing, or people whose face is in some way ugly. Or I don't know if Polanski shot it that way, but some people's faces look strange.
Yeah.
The thing with this is he like had half a face for most of the movie. It's like you don't know anything's wrong with him until you see his left nostril, until he turns to you, and it's like, oh, is this like some message about how, you know, everyone's just they're ugly inside in this movie in some way? And what was the other?
Was even the broken bifocals? Or...
Yeah, they had the broken lenses, and then they have these fabulous like homes, but inside them like horrible things are going on, and the people that live in them are horrible. Like Noah Cross has this amazing mansion, and it's like, yeah, come over for dinner, and I'm going to serve you like sea bass with the head on it, so you can see it as you're eating it, like really weird stuff like that. And then, you know, as the movie goes on, it's like, oh, it's incest too. Now incest is a part. These people are so rich and evil, they just knock up their daughters and, you know, hold the kids hostage and or want the kids, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that really famous scene where Jack Nicholson is slapping Faye Dunaway, and it's like,
Yeah,
she's my sister, she's my daughter, she's
both.
which was parody in just about everything at the time. It's not anymore, but
Yeah, well, it was set in the 30s, and, you know, men hit women back then. I mean, men hit women now, but back then it would seem like, yeah, sometimes you got to slap her around a little bit, show her who's boss. It's like, yeah,
she's being hysterical. You got to right in her, ship her right.
Yeah, you got to punch her in the jaw. So yeah, it's a dark movie.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
surprisingly.
I mean, it is a 70s movie, but
Yeah, it's a 70s movie. It's a 30s period piece, but it's also like it starts off with kind of a quirky sense of adventure and then some danger.
yeah.
And then, you know, like a lot of mixed metaphors, like, you know, he almost gets drowned in a water shortage, like, because somebody just turns on the sluice while he's down there, and somehow he gets out of that, and then the the Mulvaney gets killed, drowned or you know, put in the sea, and then there's a thing about where like he had salt water in his lungs, but he drowned in fresh water, so it was, you know, the smoking coroner. You know, this guy's like, I don't know what's wrong with me, and he's like chain smoking. He's like, yeah, I don't know, man, it's a weird thing. This is the 30s, nobody knows any better. But yeah, and then it just takes a turn, and then the end is like horrible. Like, are they gonna get away? You know, it's
Yeah, she's basically trying to run away from her father because her father essentially wants to meet his granddaughter and probably have sex with her. I don't know.
yeah, I was gonna say it's implied that he's a real creep. I mean, he is a real creep. It's there's evidence, but yeah, and that's what John Huston plays that character so good, because he kind of sounds like, you know, the old guy that's gonna tell you how it is, but then there's like all this dark, sinister shit going on. And I almost think they're going to get away with it because the cops aren't on any. They don't immediately go to his side when at the end of the movie, when it's like, yeah, we're going to help you take your granddaughter, and, you know, the cops don't know what's going on, and then Faye Dunaway starts waving a pistol around, and then that's you know. And that was a great scene too, when she's driving away, like, oh, is she going to make it? And then all of a sudden the car stops and just the horns beeping like continuously on. It's like, oh yeah, she's head first in the steering wheel. She's dead.
And then Catherine just starts screaming for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and they film it. And I love how everyone's acting in that moment, because they're acting. That seems to be like a real moment. It's like everyone's sort of shocked and sad, but no one's like making a stand or doing anything. They're just all kind of standing there like, oh, we just shot this woman in the back. and he knows exactly what's going on with her. Geddes does, but he doesn't really say much because the cops are like, "Go on, get out of here. We'll give you this one." We don't even want to explain this. It's like, we'll just say she went nuts with a gun. No one is interested in asking questions.
And that's when you get the line like, "Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown."
Yep.
And because this just takes place, it's just like Chinatown doesn't really have it doesn't have like really a thing to do with the rest of the movie. It's just where it ends. It's just a location.
It's where that one cop detective was from too, because
okay.
Geddes implied that he's racist to that detective's really racist to the Chinese because he's saying the word, so I'm going to say it. I don't know if this is a bad word or not, but he's like, "Oh, you still arresting Chinamen for spitting in the laundry?" He says stuff like that to antagonize the detective all the time.
Oh, yeah, and there's a weird joke that Jake learns from his barber that he tells. That was weird.
That was a funny joke. It was a funny joke, but it was set against this backdrop of like everyone's like, "Hey, dude, calm down, don't tell that joke," because there's some serious. The real wife of Mulvaney's waiting in your office, and she's rich and she wants to sue you. Yeah, that's the thing. The other thing I like about this movie and the screenplay is Jack Nicholson. The dialogue was good because he's always insulting people in some way or another, but the way Jack Nicholson delivers it is perfect. Because when like the one detective, ex-cop from up north, he was always talking. What was that guy's name? Was it Yelburton? I don't remember. The one cop that was like the hitman / enforcer for Noah Cross.
Yeah.
He was the retired cop, and he's like,
he's the one that puts a gun in his ear.
Yeah. but Geddes is always insulting him. It's like, do you have a job? Did they tell you what to do? I know they didn't write it out for you because you got to be able to read, what people write out. And then there was the other one about, when he was a sheriff up in wherever, and the rum runners never lost a drop when he was sheriff because he said he'll keep things safe and protected for you. But he was always saying something nasty to people, except Noah Cross. He just wanted to get away from him. Oh, who else was? Oh, it's fun to see the guy from Magnum P.I. in this. It's like, oh yeah, he did other things before. I can't think of his name, but
or the guy
John Hillerman. Yeah, that's his name.
There's the one guy who was a butler who was like in Big Trouble in Little China. That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
Yep, I remember that guy.
But yeah, it's a cool movie that I've never seen before. So for a mystery movie, it's pretty neat. And you can see it, and you can see like where a lot of people stole a bunch of stuff from this movie. So it's quality when you see where the theft is.
Yeah, I mean it's a high quality movie, and it's who was the guy who wrote the Robert Towne was the screenwriter on this. And he won. I think he won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay on this.
Yeah, that's the only one that won.
Robert Evans.
Yeah, the infamous producer, Robert Evans.
Infamous producer from Patton Oswalt comedy, Robert Evans. I think was married 100 times. I think this was his last really big successful movie. Or maybe Urban Cowboy. I don't know.
Yeah,
this was one of his.
He has a autobiography. I think it's autobiography. Yeah, it's an autobiography called "The Kid Stays in the Picture," which I haven't read yet. It was turned into an animated TV series for Comedy Central and has been made into a documentary.
Yeah,
because he was a producer in Hollywood in the 70s, so there's a lot of wild stories he has to tell.
Oh yeah.
And the way Patton Oswalt embellishes it isn't really that far off from the truth.
Yeah, it's not like he was just actually throwing details in that were just important to know.
A human rectum is nightmarishly elastic.
And there was a follow-up film to this in the 90s. It wasn't very good.
The
Called
Two
The
Jakes.
Yeah. And then David Fincher and Town were going to write a new like prequel series to this for Netflix, but that never panned out. And then Ben Affleck was going to do a remake of it, and that never panned out. So. I think they just need to leave it alone.
Yeah. It's like, just make your own mystery.
It's a great movie.
The Town was a cool movie. It's like, just make another one.
Just do that. But yeah, if you're interested in like the subtext to this, if anyone listening is, you got to read Cadillac Desert, because that's pretty amazingly insightful into how important this. Like I said, these are all fictional characters, but you can imagine real people doing stuff like this for this reason.
It's also cool to see like the era, because this was made in the 70s, so the 30s stuff that was lying around still could look decent. So you get to see that, and
it was probably real 30s stuff. There was probably some left.
And a different looking LA for the time. It's completely different from how it looks now.
Yeah.
And some things just look exactly the same.
Well, I guess like all the municipal buildings this was shot near, there was some trivia about like those are unchanged. Like if you could frame the shot, if you were doing a scene by scene remake of this, there's a lot of that downtown stuff. It's not changed.
Yeah.
It's just there's a giant city with steel buildings all around it. But this is why Washington D.C. has those weird building ordinances where you can't make things too tall. Because that's what DC would be now, just giant steel towers and then these old quaint buildings from the back when we had a government instead of all the corporations and the towers running everything. Back in the days when people voted and it mattered. No one was corrupt in the 50s. A golden time. Sure it was.
Rockefeller showed us the way.
Yeah.
He could do no wrong.
So anyway, Chinatown, check it out. It's a great movie.
It's on the Criterion channel right now, and you can probably find it in a lot of different places. So
I think it's on Netflix too. It shows up. Like I said, it's considered one of the top 10 best movies ever made. And I don't know if it comes up anymore because of Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
It's love the art, hate the artist. Yeah.
But it was a movie I only knew through cultural osmosis, and I figured, I have an excuse to watch it. So,
and rarely it was one that lived up to its hype, I think.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of those movies where it's like, this is culturally important. It's just like boring, but there's 15 minutes of genius in it. This movie was pretty much kept you interested the whole way through. Kind of like Archer Dreamland. That was set during this time about this kind of stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, not very closely because it's Archer. I'm sure there was incest in there, but probably for humor.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
They like that kind of stuff. All right. Anyway, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
And this is Conlon. Goodbye, America.